Hello and welcome to our lecture of the 16th century poetry presented by Dr. Ala Al-Halbousi, a lecturer at the Department of English, the College of Art of Al-Iraqiyya University. This lecture is presented to you as part of the Google Classroom activities. Therefore, if you would like to raise any question, please comment on the video on our classroom and I'll try to answer all the questions as soon as possible. Without further ado, let's get started. In this lecture, we are going to discuss Shakespeare's Sonnet 55. But first, let's have an idea about who Shakespeare is. William Shakespeare was born in Stratford-upon-Avon and spent his childhood there. He received some formal education. Suddenly, he appeared in London in connection with a theatre and spent most of his life there writing for the stage. He spent the last few years of his life in his native town without any literary activities. If his plays reveal the greatness of his dramatic poetry, his sonnets are a record of his great lyrical power. He brought the English sonnet into perfection. Hence it is called the Shakespearean sonnet. It consists of 3 quatrains and a final couplet. While a single thought is developed in the 3 quatrains, the final couplet is a conclusion that clinches the meaning or a twist in meaning, which stands in contrast to the idea developed in the 3 quatrains. The themes of Shakespeare's sonnets are death, love, immortality of poetry, and the vicissitude of life and time. They are the most personal poems Shakespeare ever wrote, yet they tell us little about his life. In these sonnets, the plain and the ornate styles are to be found. The power of feeling, the depth of thought, and intense imagination are all to be found in these sonnets. Therefore, we are going to have 3 sonnets of Shakespeare, and we will start with the first one, which is Sonnet 55. Not marble, nor the gilded monument of princes shall outlive this powerful rhyme, but you shall shine more bright in these contents than unswept stone besmeared with sluggish time. When wasteful war shall statues overturn, and broils root out the work of masonry, no Mars his sword, no war's quick fire shall burn the living record of your memory. 'Gainst death and all oblivious enmity shall you pace forth, your praise shall still find room, even in the eyes of all posterity, that wear this sword out to the ending doom. So till the judgment that yourself arise, you'll live in this and dwell in lovers' eyes. So let's start with the first quatrain, where Shakespeare says, not marble, nor the gilded monument of princes shall outlive this powerful rhyme. It means that Shakespeare is making a comparison here between the gilded and marble monument to a poem. So you say, like in line number 1, where he says marble, no gilded monument. Gilded means golden or covered all around with gold. And not any monument, but those monuments of princes. And he said that they will not outlive, which means that they are not going to live longer than this powerful rhyme. Rhyme here means poem. So nothing is compared to the powerful poems that Shakespeare is writing. In line number 3 and 4, Shakespeare moves on trying to justify his point, trying to prove that what he's saying is correct, trying to give justification to his argument by saying, but you shall shine more bright in these contents than unswept stone besmeared with a sluggish time. So he says that these poems are going to last forever, shining through time. However, with these monuments, they are going to rust over time and they are going to be smeared with, as he said, sluttish, which means dirty, time. We see from the first quatrain, first 4 lines, at the beginning he said that it's marble and gilded monument, which is a positive way to describe the monument. However, in line number 4, he said unswept stone. So he's describing them as a stone in a negative way, and again besmeared with a sluttish time, which means they are rusty and dirty over time. Therefore, we can say that there is a contrast here between the marble and stone, between the gilded monument and smeared with sluttish time, in order to clarify his point by saying that poetry and poems are going to last even longer in time, and it can be transferred from one generation to the other, rising up the reputation of the poem and its poet through generations to come. On the contrary, the stones and monuments are going to rust and vanish maybe through time, and they are not going to immortalize the poet or the person. Now we move to the second quatrain, and as I have explained earlier in the previous lectures, that each sonnet is divided into quatrains and couplets, and that every quatrain has its own unity and its own idea, whether to support the previous one or to go against the one that comes before. In this quatrain, Shakespeare starts saying, "When wasteful war shall statues overturn." Wasteful here means destructive. So when destructive war, statues overturn, which means destroy the statues, and that what we could see in documentary about the First World War or the Second World War in Europe, where London has suffered a lot of destruction due to the bombarding by the enemies. And broils root out the work of masonry. Broils means riots or disorder, which root out or destroy or take off the works of masonry, which means destroying the builder's work and outcomes of creativity. And that's what's going to happen to the monument. However, that is not the case with poetry that Shakespeare is defending. He continues here by saying, "Nor Mars his sword, nor war's quick fire shall burn the living record of your memory." So here actually nor and nor, it means neither and nor. So neither Mars his sword or Mars's sword, nor war's quick fire shall burn the living record of your memory. And the living record here means the poetry that Shakespeare is talking about. And Mars, of course, is the god of war. So nor even the wrath of the god of war sword, nor the war's quick fire is going to be able to destroy the living record that you are going to leave in the poem. In the third quatrain, Shakespeare says, "Against death and all oblivious enmity." So against here means against death and all oblivious enmity, all the forgettable strives and struggles, shall you pace forth, that you are going to face forward. Your praise shall still find room. So your fame, your mentioning, your memory should continue and find room and find its place even in the eyes of all posterity, in the eyes of all the upcoming generations and the offsprings of people that wear this word out to the ending doom. And it's a bit hard here. This line states that those offsprings are the main reason that they are going to lead to the doom of this world. They are going to destroy this world. However, despite all of their actions, your memory will stay in the eyes of the generations to come until the end of this life or the day of judgment. So in the last couplet, Shakespeare says, "So till the judgment that yourself arise, you live in this and dwell in lover's eyes." So until the end of the whole world's life, until the end of this life and the day of judgment where we meet God and be submit to our sins and good deeds that we did in life, your memory will last forever. Your memory, your mentioning, your name, your fame is going to stay in the eyes of the lovers who are going to read this poem that immortalize your memory and will keep you immortalized forever despite any form that you will end up with. So till the judgment that yourself arise, so until the day of judgment where you will arise from the dead, you will live in this, where this means the poem, and dwell in lovers' eyes, that whenever your poems and your poetry is going to be read by lovers, you will be mentioned again and will be memorized again, and you will live again in their eyes and memories. Hopefully this explanation gave you an idea about how the poem is working and how the idea that Shakespeare want to clarify to the readers. And as I have said before, that sonnet is all about how to persuade the reader to go on the same line of the poet and the idea of the poem itself. From this point, we can just move on to the poetic devices that will conclude the lecture and gives a clear idea on the main important poetic devices that Shakespeare used in this poem. In this sonnet, we have several literary devices or poetic devices being used by William Shakespeare to add beauty to the words and the idea of the poem. And starting first with the several examples of alliteration that refers to the starting words that are close to each other with the same sound. For example, there is an alliteration in the first line, not marble, not the gilded monument, as marble and monument start with M letter. Later examples of alliteration including princess and powerful in the second line, shall shine in the third line, and wasteful war in the line 5. There are also several examples of assonance or the repetition of the vowel sound within words that are close to each other, like shine and bright, and shine and more bright is an example of assonance. There are also examples of personifications in which inanimate objects have human capacities. For example, Shakespeare writes that monuments cannot outlive his verse, as if monuments were alive and can live longer. And the praise of the subject about which Shakespeare writes will make room for itself in future years as if it were alive. In addition, we have, for example, in line 8, we have living record as personification, again, as if the record can live, and shall shine more than unswept stone. So he compared the monument, the marble monument, to a unswept stone, which is metaphor. And also we have another personification, which is sluttish time, or dirty time, as if time can go dirty. And that's a few of many that we can talk about in this beautiful sonnet. I will leave it at this point and we'll discuss the rhyme scheme of this poem as well. So since we said that it's divided into a 3 quatrain and 1 couplet, we can divide the rhyme scheme accordingly. So starting with the first line ending with monument, which rhyme with contents of the third line, and second line, which is rhyme with the fourth line, which is time. So A, B, and then starting or continuing with the second quatrain, says overturn, which rhymes with burn, so that's C. Then masonry with memory, and that's D. That's the second quatrain, so C, D. Then we have the third quatrain as EF, because it starts with enmity, which rhymes with posterity, and room with doom, and end up with G, which is the last couplet, where it says arise and eyes. So this is completely the rhyme scheme of the sonnet, where it says A B, C D, E F G, and that's the end of the rhyme scheme. Well, this is the end of our lecture, and as usual, please check all the resources on this slide for further information about the topic, and inshallah I will see you next lecture. Have a lovely time.